He's definitely brutal. He's always savage, and you're definitely getting wrecked.
I have a question now, which hopefully will tie into what we discussed earlier about the fact that you didn't always let people know what was going on in your career. So basically, you can. I'm going to leave this totally open ended, so you'll decide how to answer this. Basically, there was a time period when things started to go not very well in Evil Geniuses, when we were still in the COVID era, and I used to do By the Numbers with Richard. And at the time, understandably, there was a lot of PR gaffes from EG, by the way, like people like Breezy and etc. If they ever did an interview or their stats were bad, basically the problem in that scenario is again, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you can't. If you're doing really badly and people know you get paid a lot of money, there really isn't a good answer to that. Like, there's no like secret thing you can reveal that makes it fine. So at the time, people thought a lot of the EG players were check stealers. It's like they're getting paid all this money. Everyone knows it's a great org, but the results are terrible. Like there's nothing coming. Even when we got back to having more, the lands were starting to fire up again. There wasn't big results coming, and there was a period where. You can correct me if my memory of this is wrong. I believe it went something like Breezy took some time off for like a few weeks, and that was just billed as like, oh, he's burned out or he needs a break or something. And then the problem is, the story, as far as I remember, went that right after this, it was like then it was announced that you were going to take a break. And so then people's take, and maybe this was even our take on By the Numbers, I'd have to go back and check, was sort of like, what the fuck? He's the in-game leader. Like, what? He's going to just fucking take off too, and they all want to keep getting their checks even though they're not doing anything. And look at the result. You know, it was the usual punditry talking head things. What you do, you have to react in the moment with the hot takes, you know. Now, what people might not know is you didn't just take time off because you were like, I can't be asked to play. You actually had a whole bunch of shit going on in your life that was like fucking enormous. It was way bigger than CS if people do it. You could choose how much to say, mate. But basically, you had a whole bunch of shit going on in your life that was way bigger than CS. And actually, if people maybe knew the reasons why, or what, basically, I would say it this way. If in the future, if they ever do those profiles again, mate, you would be a shoo-in to do one of these because people want to know like the real life struggles people have and what they've gone through as people to develop and the roadblocks of it. What would you say about this time period? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so this time period was right after COVID, or even during COVID still. I remember spending a lot of time in Europe. This was after Ethan and Tarek left. I'm left up to pick up the pieces with Mihu and Obo. Performance-wise, I feel like it's I don't want to use the term PTSD because that doesn't do justice to all the people that actually suffer from it. Sure. But like I just started to feel like the past was coming to haunt me, where I have this amazing team like I did on OpTic, I did on Liquid, and now I have it again on EG. But like, you know, the story's almost ending in a sense. And so now I'm left with like Mihu and Obo, and you know, we're not performing well. COVID's hit. Like I'm really worried about my family and my fiance at the time, who's not my wife. So like a lot of everything was just kind of hitting me at once, the performance of the team and then my performance issues. Like I started to become depressed because I was just living away from home for too long. And then like it's what I can bear it, I think, more if you're away from home and you're putting in all of this effort and the teammates around you aren't, but you know, you're winning. I think winning justifies everything for me. But if you're not, it kind of just hurts you that much more because like you start asking yourself, why the hell am I doing this? If my teammate beside me is giving 20%, I'm giving 100. And then I have all this other stuff going on at home. And so that's kind of why I took some time off at that time, is because things in the team weren't going well, things at home weren't going well. And if things at home aren't going well, like I'm not going to be able to give my 100% to my teammates. And so I'll just take myself out of the equation until I'm back and ready. But yeah, during that time period, there was just so much skepticism about the team, and then just the way that we were managed by EG was a complete joke. Sure. During that whole time. Just with the replacements they gave us after Tarek and Ethan, and then just the way that we were set up for failure, in my opinion. Like after Phil, I don't know if people know who Phil is, but he was the GM at the time of EG when we first signed. Like he was so good and he supported us in the best ways possible, and he really understood the needs of the team. But then once we had like Nicole come in and the whole new like infrastructure was changed at EG, it was just like I was honestly happy that ship went down with me, because as soon as like I left that team, I felt like it pretty much burned to the ground a lot more quickly. And I felt like I was holding it together as long as I could, but then once I couldn't anymore, it was just like, you know, good riddance. And I kind of have some regret, and I don't know what the word is, but anger, frustration towards EG for not allowing me to rebuild. They opted to get rid of me, Mihu, and Obo after the Stockholm elimination. But I felt like why not just give me one more chance with the likes of Breeze and who was left, Cirque. and we can rebuild as a core. We've been together for a long time. Give me 2 pieces that I can perhaps teach and develop into what was missing, and give me another go. But they decided not to. They got rid of me after the Stockholm Major, and then that was probably like the darkest time in my career, because I felt like it was just taken away from me in such like a dark time during COVID, and then with the way that the changes in the team happened and unfolded, and I felt like I had proven myself as a leader by that time, and to not be able to have the chance to do that again was really tough for me.
One thing you just touched on there that I forgot, actually, but it's a perfect time to bring it up, because obviously this was actually almost the canary in the coal mine, that there was going to be problems with this management, is, as you say, almost at the exact time, if people don't know, when you had this like amazing online streak where the team was the dominant team and everything was going great. And people might know, simultaneous to this was when Liquid was in all that strife. Like they did that weird move where they brought like Fallen in for twists, and then Moses was the coach, and they would change up the roster, and it was the in-game leader. And at the time, and this is a real story, I think Zeus told it in his reflections a few years ago. At the time, basically, Zeus had already gone, because remember, we're not Nike League of Legends, we don't have poaching rules. You can just fucking spit someone up like, you want to join my team, we'll make it work. And basically, it was one of those ones where everyone except the Orgs wanted this move to happen, which was basically you were going to like, wasn't it like Naf and someone else? I forget who the other, was it Naf and Twists? Who was it? Naf and who was going to come, or Stewie? Who was it was going to come over? And there was going to be like a super team in NA, right?
This might have been before all of the changes happened, when we had Ethan and Tarek still.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is to replace them potentially, even maybe.
From what I remember, if this is the same story that you're talking about, I believe it was Zeus was the coach of Liquid at the time, and he was trying to get... no, Zeus was with us, sorry.
Yeah,
but
he was trying to get Naf from Liquid and someone else. I forget who the other player was, though.
As far as I know, it was the other way around, that Liquid was trying to take Cirque and Breeze.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe I got it wrong then. Fair enough.
And so me and Zeus had to fight to keep Cirque and Breeze.
Okay.
And we did, and at the end of the day, keep them in the roster together. But that's what I remember from that story that you brought up, which is I'm sure maybe they were talking about some sort of trade deal, but yeah, they were trying to get Cirque and Breeze away from our team, and we ended up fighting to keep them.
Right, one thing I do want to know is this, even though, by the way, I understand it, I've even done videos, and there's actually loads of stuff on that company's network about the Evil Geniuses problems, and it wasn't just in CS, essentially it was like management problems, so it spread to every game. It's just CS is the one people will know because of how famous the team was. But one thing I would say is this, is... right, people will actually forget you were even on EG at the end, Stanislaw, because obviously you weren't even on the main team. They did that weird thing, which, listen, on paper, this is why I can totally see why corporate people fuck up in esports. On paper, it sounds genius, like some sports thing of like, well, what we'll do is we'll have a bunch of teams, and you know what, instead of kicking Stanislaw out, why don't we take him and make him out on the development roster, and he's going to take these players, and that's where, and then we'll have this other squad here, and then remember, they had 3 different squads at the time, but obviously the joke ended up being, like, all 3 fucking sucked, didn't they? Like, none of them were good, and it just actually meant in the end, the stupidest part about how it worked in practice was essentially the 3 teams got in each other's way, and like the joke is, except for that Philadelphia, it meant if they're qualifying or in the qualifier, you can't play now, or vice versa, and as a result, it wasn't that it ended up being a farm system and an academy and a rod, which sounds like a great idea if you could make it work. It sounds like actually it was almost just a waste of everyone's time. Like in this time period, people probably don't even remember this year or two, Stanislaw, but like, what the fuck were you even doing on that squad? Like I say, you were just attending like Philadelphia's and shit. Like what was that like?
Yeah, so after getting let go from EG, from the main roster after the Stockholm Major, this was in 2021, I was just left on my own. I didn't have anything, anybody, any team. And so I took like a few months to work through whatever I was going through, depression, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I got back on the horse. I started streaming. But I was missing Counter-Strike so badly that I messaged a few friends and we made this team. And then that team, it's hilarious as to how bad the level is in NACS, but I was able to make a team of friends and compete competitively in ECL, which is a North American, right? And so that kind of reignited the fire that I had, and then that was kind of like my segue back into trying to compete again. And then this is where the birth of like this unnamed team, which we called Forsaken back then, right before this academy EG roster that I was on. So I messaged Warden, who I worked with on Complexity, and we wanted to build a team together, and we called that team Forsaken. So we just took some players from NA that were, good enough at the time that I was scouting and whatever, and I built my own team from scratch with Warden. and we took that team pretty far. Like we were competitive in ECL and whatnot. And then it was during this time that EG, who was, I guess, being run by Valens at the time, and he had, or somebody there had set up the academy project with the EG Black team and the EG White team. And during my time at Forsaken, I was, reaching out to organizations and players to still see if there was a chance for me to play. And once I got into contact with Valens, that's where I was offered a position to join the academy team. And he had told me from day one, like, this is probably, let's just see how it goes. It's going to be a trial. If things go well, then for sure we envision you, going back to the main team and re-leading that. But then obviously that all turned out to be a lie because I didn't end up doing that. And I felt like I was very close. And I feel like, funnily enough, I joined this EG Black team, and it consists of Walco, not sure if you know that name, Wiz, Axe was our coach at the time. I believe Rush was there as well for a brief period in time, and we might have had like George and Junior, some sort of composition like that. And funny story, I did what I did really early on in my career, which is I handed over the in-game leader reins to Walco, because like just imagine that, right? I'm joining this academy team. I'm this veteran IGL, and it just wasn't working because Walco was way too quiet when he wasn't in-game leading, and so I'm like, here's the only way you're going to learn, kid, if you want to have a future in this game, which is you're going to be the in-game leader now, and you're going to be forced to speak and call the strats, and then I'll help you. I became like my own little version of Ethan, which is I became the lurk and the secondary caller, and I was putting up really good numbers during this time, and I was showing that like I still have what it takes to compete. And then we start to have internal conflicts. I believe Walco and Axed were like this pair of friends, and I think Hext, who is now on Energy at the time, became available because he was playing on the main team. And in my head, I should, I'm ready to come back into the main team. I've played well enough on the academy. I'm back in form. I have matches under my belt. Like, can I go back on the main team now, please? But no, they just got rid of me on the academy team for Hext, for their friend, so that they could just all be friends again and have this little fun bubble that they want to stay in. And then I get booted and I'm left without a team again.
By the way, one thing I also want to ask you about, this is another reason I think people underestimate sometimes how powerful narratives are, is another cycle in your career people made into a strong narrative, and then they've almost like burdened you with it since, is the idea that this is why in some ways life is fair. As much as it might suck for daps that the story is like, right, daps, has the team got really good now? Right, it's your time to get subbed out, mate. Let Stanislaw come in and win the tournaments. But then the narrative then goes, but it never lasts that long. It's 6 months, 9 months, people say, and then they claim, it drops off or goes away, right? Again, it did only happen like 3 times. Like, it's not like it happened 15 times and you had a 30-year career. So it could just be coincidence. But is there a reason behind that? I'm sure that you've thought about these things yourself in your career. Is there a reason why it starts so hot and then it gradually peters out sometimes?
I think it's different every time, and each situation, it's its own unique situation, and I have to respect that. But, I think now I'm in my final form, you could say. I finally learned all of the hard lessons that I needed to learn, but it's the theme of me as a person and as a in-game leader and as a player in Counter-Strike has just been this slow development that I wish would have happened a lot faster. And so I think the reason that things tapered out so much was because I internalized the solutions to the problems way too much. And as time had gone on, and you need to kind of revolutionize the way that you've been doing things. So you look at like players who have had longevity, like the Fallen, the karrigan, they're able to find a way, like when things aren't working, to reconfigure the puzzle and, get remotivated, get players on board again. Perhaps that's something that I always struggled with. And I think earlier in the past, that was due to the fact that I internalized those things too much. But now that I have more confidence in myself and I'm a stronger leader, I'm able to, stand by what I believe in more. I'm able to convey to the organization that I'm playing for what I need, and if this configuration of players isn't working, then I can make changes and whatnot. So I think to answer your question, it just comes down to experience and really learning from your past mistakes.
After this, when you then remade that Forsaken team and you were sort of like getting back up again and starting to get with different players, one player that people might obviously now be interested to hear about is you had that guy cxzi, the guy who's in a Complexity now, and people have seen has obviously had like a nice run this year. Who was this guy back then?
this guy back then was just another up and comer in NA. He played a lot of FPL. He was grinding. He was doing all the things that a young player needed to do. And I took a shot on him. And honestly, I was pretty happy with the way he was performing. But, you know, as time went on, we started to butt heads because he just wasn't taking the credit. He reminded me of Ye in a sense. Like, you give him all this criticism and he's not listening. He's not absorbing it. And so there came a time where I just had to make a decision. Like, I need to try something else or somebody else because you're not learning quickly enough.
One of the players who didn't make it from this roster to the modern wildcard that people know from the lands is someone I also want to ask about, because I feel like this is one of those names that like could have had more shine. The player Infinite, like, look, he had his own separate reasons as to why his career got limited that were outside of the server stuff. But whenever I saw this guy play, he was in Flashpoint, for example, I actually thought this was a pretty good player, mate. He seemed like quite skilled, actually, like quite a confident player. What was it like to work with him?
Very skilled, very confident in the server. Outside of the server, very difficult to work with. Does not take criticism well. Does not give criticism well. Like, the way he speaks to people comes off very like aggressive, passive aggressive, disrespectful almost. And so I know he's been going through a tough time, and I really hope he's okay right now, like in his personal life.
Okay.
But yeah, as a player, he was very, very good and very skilled. So I hope, like, if he does decide to come back, then hopefully he's learned the lessons that I had to learn, and he for sure can have a future because he has what it takes. He's a very, very good player.
Right, one reason that you know you've done a decent job in Wildcard is people now, if I say Wildcard, they'll either go, oh, you mean Stanislaw's team, or oh, that team that made a run at the major. Before that, the joke was, this is when you know at the time it wasn't established yet, people just went, that's Amaranth's team, which is like such a loose connection anyway, because it's not like she manages the team or something, you're in a fucking basement or something. What is that angle like? When you joined this team, was that already a thing that was known? Was it like was it actually an expectation this was supposed to become a project that would go to the lands and stuff? What was it, the initial like framing of it when you joined this org?
Yeah, so when we joined this org, it was me and Warden, and then our core of Forsaken that had joined, and we had to merge with the coach that they had at the time, Horvey, and they also had an opper that they were unwilling to let go, Slight, and so we had to get rid of our opper and cxzi, and we took Sonic and Slight, and so you know, already hearing that, you know, you think going into this organization is just the decision to have two head coaches was very difficult because from day one, both were just having this ego battle that they couldn't get over.
Right.
Like they both wanted to be the head coach, and no one was willing to just accept the fact that there's two of you and just accept the role of assistant coach and like do what you need to do. So in terms of like the structural organization, it was a very weird situation to be put in from day one. I don't necessarily think that affected performance too much. I feel like since day one, this has been my team. And finally, I felt like I had full control. I was controlling the way we played. I was controlling the roster. I was controlling, like, you know, I was finally like we finally got to the point where I feel like a strong leader, and I feel like I'm able to implement my style. I'm able to handle the team in the way that I want to handle it. And so, you know, the expectation from the start on Wildcard was just kind of, you know, from Wildcard's perspective, they're signing an in-game leader that has been at the top, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with the organization, is grow the organization, grow the team, and just really show myself, because I feel like, let's be honest, this you know, the latter part of my career, this is my last opportunity, or one of my last opportunities to show what I can do as a player. I can erase the daps narrative about how I just steal his teams and his strategies. I can do this all my own way from scratch. I can prove that I can develop young players. I can lead a team in the way that I want to be led. And now that I finally have the full control and the capability and the support from the organization to do so, I feel like it was a really appealing opportunity for me to be able to showcase what I can finally do.
Let me ask, obviously, about some of the other players in this team. So one of the ones that I think has actually been one of the revelations of this team, because I admit, I'm like everyone else. I think I just assume all the up-and-coming NA players are in Valorant, unfortunately, because that's what did happen a few years ago. The JBA guy actually is one of the players I thought more checked out with the eye test in your team. Who's this guy?
Yeah, so JBA, this was one of the first iterations of Wildcard, Danny and CXzi, sorry, and Infinite were playing a lot of FPL with JBA. And so as we were making changes on this team, we needed a player, and I started doing some scouting. And right away, again, this guy passes my eye test. And I would just load up some of his Twitch streams and his demos and see like what I was working with. Right away, you can see like this kid's special. He has really good mechanics, incredible aim, some of the best I've ever seen. Reminds me of Prime Breeze in 2019, and he's shown that already. But outside of the server and on the other side, there was a lot of development that had to be done, and I had to step into a new role, which is like almost being his like father figure in a sense and just showing him the ropes.
What about, obviously, another name that, fully enough, as well as your redemption arc, this is the Sonic redemption arc, because people forget this, that when he was on that, like, NA South African Cloud9, I always told people, I thought he was the best player, mate. He actually looked like a pretty good fucking LAN player. And if people don't know, he really is like a hybrid. Like, he can fuck around and use the AWP if he wants. So, like, who has he been in your team?
In my team, he's been exactly kind of how you described, like very skilled, very hybrid. We enjoy when he picks up the op. We wish he would do it more. But aim-wise, like I was really surprised at how good he was with the rifle, because I had always thought of him as an opper. But into this team, we didn't need him to op. We had an opper already. And ever since he really just accepted the role of the rifle, and he takes a lot of map control and space for us, he's been a revelation. Like his skills and his mechanics are some of the best I've ever seen. And for a player like that, coming from his like history and past, and the lack of, I guess, competitive gameplay that he's had over the last year or so, for him to jump into our team and play at such a high level was really really exciting to see.
And then, no disrespect to Metasport, but when we were all doing these pick'ems, a load of people were like, how could you ever put Metasport down? They were really good. Like, you go, it's like, well, first of all, one of them left. The Susp guys in this team now. In fact, now both the brothers have left. Like, this is another player where, again, same story with Sweden, remember? Everyone thinks you write off Sweden now. They don't have any good players anymore. Like, this guy has clearly got potential. Who is Susp to you?
So Susp was presented to me when we were making changes for the team. And again, I'm the one that has to do all these eye tests, right? So I'll load up the demos, I'll see what I'm working with. And again, I could kind of tell by watching his games. I watched a lot of ancient games from him specifically, and I could just tell like he understands the map, he understands what's going on. He looks like a really solid anchor. He's just well-rounded. And then the surprising thing from me watching his games was, when I was watching him, I felt like I was watching a more experienced player, but then you kind of go and check, and he's only 19 years old. And so that was really the biggest check mark for me, which was he's playing like he has a lot of experience at his age. And that is a true sign of someone that has a high potential.
And then what about the other Swede? What about phzy? Because I feel like he's one of those players, mate. If you notice, a lot of them, this happened to in 2021, 2022. If you were one of those players for a big org that was on the academy team and you got your shot in the main team, they all looked shit because they were all like 19-year-old kids who never played LANs, and half of them also didn't get their right roles, or they were only there briefly. And a whole bunch of them now are actually in like the teams in stage 1 and stage 2 of these majors in other squads. So this is someone I'm pretty sure everyone wrote off after his nip period. But if I look back, I'm pretty sure he was like 19 or 18 at the time himself. What's it been like to work with phzy, the AWPer?
phzy is very good, and he surprised me a lot. But also, like, taking a step back to when we were deciding to pick him up, he was like the perfect profile for a pickup. This guy was so young. He's played in NIP, he's played in the academy, and also, people don't know this, but he lived in China for a while and played it on Rare Atom. And he's actually he was the in-game leader for a Chinese team, and he would have to learn some like Chinese words and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, from my perspective, like that was the perfect pickup, because I'm not going to be worried about a player being homesick if he's going to be on an NA team from EU. Pulling up his demos and watching him play, very, very impressed with not only his opping, but then also his rifling. His rifling is what really caught me off guard. And then, like we alluded to before in the early part of this interview, which was my style as an in-game leader, there's going to be a lot of force buys, and there's going to be a lot of times where we don't have an op in our hands, and we want to win the round. And so I need players that are all good with rifles, and phzy was one of those players that passed the eye test for me. And then since then, like, honestly, just very, very good worker, shows up to practice each day, ready to learn, really good teammate, really positive energy usually. And yeah, I was really happy with that pickup.
Oh, yeah, one thing I've just remembered, because the Chinese thing reminded me, I should definitely ask you the obvious question, which is ridiculously topical now, which is that you've probably seen the memes, like the best NA player is called me Sue from fucking Lin Vision Gaming, because he actually was on this team briefly, way like a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, so with Call Me Sue, again, I think we just needed a player to stand in. I forget who might have left at the time. It might have been during the Infinite time where Infinite was gone and we needed a stand-in. And so I just, saw Call Me Sue playing some FPL games. I started watching him and I was impressed. And then I brought him in.
Is he totally fluent in English?
Yeah, his English is good.
Right.
And so no problems with communication there. However, like he was just very raw at the time. Like skill wise, you could see that he had a lot of skill, but for us, like it was just very, he had not played on like a professional team before. And so I'm really happy that I got the chance to play with him, but at the same time, like he just wasn't ready for a team like mine. And then he had to go back to China for some like personal issues. But now you look at him on Lin Vision and like he's feeling like, I'm sure he's feeling like he's on top of the world, but I'm really happy for him. He's a really nice kid. He works hard and he's really funny outside of the server, and in the side of the server he has really good aim and skill. So I'm glad that he's found a team that's able to like allow him to shine and teach him the ropes.
One thing I should definitely ask you about is, obviously the player of the year for HLTV last year was Donk. And if people don't know, of all the people in CS, you should be able to tell me how good this guy is. Because I think the series he had against you at that like Pro League or whatever it was, mate, is like, this guy might just be the god of CS. Because in that game, they were supposed to lose that game 1 million times over. Like, if people don't know, this is the one where over 2 maps, he drops like a plus 49. And basically it's like, just almost wins the game by himself. It's ridiculous. Like, give me some thoughts on playing against this guy.
Yeah, so Donk, we should have won that game in Malta against Spirit, but he put the team on his back and just defeated them. And if I want everyone to just have the chance, and I will personally pay for this myself, to set up a stadium of players to just go and 1v1 him, the public. I want the public to be able to have the chance to 1v1 Donk and feel what it feels like to have an aim duel with him. And I remember this one time I was in like a 1v5, and you know those times where you're watching a 1v5 and you know the one player that's alive, it was me in this case, but you're just trying to survive. And in order to survive in a 1v5, sometimes you have to like fight your way out of a corner. And I remember having this duel with Donk on T-side nuke, and I was in Squeaky Door and he was in main, and he's just like, the way he was playing with me like I was some like he's a lion and I was this like little squirrel that he was trying to catch. Like I could not hit a bullet on him, I could not jiggle him the way I wanted to. But yeah, that like when you're playing against him, you will feel exactly what every player tells you, and that is something is just not right with this kid, because he is so good. It's just to be that good at that age is incredible.
And obviously, I want to ask about the last major, the Perfect World Shanghai one, because this was the one where, on paper, put it this way, I bet very few people had you in the pick'ems. Like, not a lot of people thought this team's going to go through. And yeah, it was a 3-2, but like the big win, obviously, is fucking Virtus.pro. Like, you look at the list of names they have; those are some really impressive players. So, give me some thoughts on this major run.
Yeah, major run was really incredible. Probably one of my most memorable achievements, especially with this team, making top 16 with rookies. This was their first major. And then, like you said, we beat Virtus.pro, we beat 9Z even to go 3-0 in the first stage. We beat Liquid in a BO1. We were putting down all these big names, and that all comes down to a lot of hard work, to be honest. It was we had a really good boot camp at Poland. And we felt really prepared coming into the tournament. We had a very deep playbook. We haven't even touched on our coach yet, but our coach is really incredible, Vincent. He really prepares us well for matches. And at that time, during the Shanghai Major, everything was clicking. Like, we all had all of our roles. We were all motivated. We were all feeling comfortable in China. Finally adjusted to the food and to the jet lag and all of that stuff, and so everything was clicking at the right time. But we did put in a lot of work, and we went into that major with a very, very deep playbook.
I mean, I'll also say as well, even though you guys went 0-3, it's way better than people realise. 1, you almost beat FaZe, the FaZe that did the miracle run. 2, you lost to Spirit, who won the fucking event. And then even the decider against Game League, who people know all the variations of that team have been solved. That was like a 3-game series. Like, this is not that bad a 0-3, mate. I see what you mean. For rookies, this should be a memorable run.
Yeah, and with rookies, I think this is kind of like the theme that's developing with this roster, which is I just lacked that little bit extra from of experience from these players to close out these situations. Like there was not at the Shanghai Major, but there was this recent game where like against Big, I believe we had like 3 or 4 4v2s and we lost all these rounds and we lost the game. It's like I really think time is going to be the best indicator of what these players are made of. But yeah, I think to achieve what we achieved with rookies and with that team just goes to show, if you put in the hard work and everyone buys into the system and the belief, then you can achieve anything. And I the beautiful thing for me personally is that it kind of validates everything that we've been talking about for the last hour and a half, which is once I have the ability to showcase what I can do, I feel like proud of what I've been able to do. And I found the players myself. I didn't need daps to do any of this. He has nothing to do with this team. I set up the team in the way that I wanted, and all of the players bought into the system and into the leadership, and they all worked really hard, and they all deserve what they got at that major because they put in the hours and the sacrifice. But yeah, I just feel really, really proud and validated of Shanghai specifically because, like you said, even in the 0-3 stage, we were very close to beating like some of the best teams in the world, like the phases and the VPs and the spirits, and it just goes to show like I'm still fighting for the return to be a consistent tier 1 player, and I feel like I'm close, but I just need like a little bit more time or to change like 1 or 2 more things to finally get there.
At this last major, you had what I think is probably the least satisfying way to get eliminated, which is you win those 2 BO1s. So you're like, guys, 1 winner, we're in the next round, and then you lose the 3 best of 3s in a row, which is obviously the ultimate bomber way to go out of the major. Give me some thoughts on this major.
It was tough. It was very, very tough. And then, losing in the way that we did, it made a lot of players emotional. And then, they went on and did things, and now like our whole team is in question. And
Right.
yeah, it's like everything's come full circle, and I deserve everything that's coming my way if it does.
Right.
Honestly, I'm the one that loaded the gun back in time. We're making a movie. But yeah, it's heartbreaking because you look at the major roster list, and I was very, very confident going into this major to make it to stage 2. Stage 2 looked very difficult. Like you had the Falcons and the other teams that looked very scary. But stage 1,
big names, yeah.
Yeah, the jump from stage 1 to stage 2, and I'm sure you can agree though, was huge.
Yeah.
And most analysts and experts honestly put us going through.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I put ourselves going through too. I really thought we could do it. And then, you win the first 2 BO1s. I felt very confident, and then, I think the one that's gonna haunt me the most from that tournament is probably the Bet Boom series where we lost both OT games. And again, it's just you're gonna look back, and this is all hindsight mentality, but I really think like we really need to look hard at ourselves, and I don't think for this tournament people know exactly how much change and how much preparation we had to put in to make people happy. And this is it's starting to happen again with the whole star player mentality and conflict, where I had to make a lot of changes. And I don't know if people noticed, but at this tournament I was the entry fragger, because I have players that aren't willing to do it selflessly. And so I had to put myself not only in the in-game leader position, but now I'm entry fragging. And I feel like that's where you look at some of our games at the Austin Major here on Nuke specifically, where we're like not getting as many rounds as we normally do. It's because I'm the one that's, now creating space, where that's not my strong suit. That's not my specialty. But what I felt like going up into this major, I didn't have a choice. I had to make the players happy and kind of succumb to the pressure of what the team wanted. Looking back now, I feel like that was a mistake, but we were close. What can I say? I don't think we would have made it to stage 3 with the team that we had, but definitely really disappointed to not make it out of stage 2. But in my opinion, it was down to just like the changes we made to just satisfy the rest of the players.
Put it this way, I can see why now is the time to do this interview, because it feels like you're in quite a reflective mood, actually. Like you've thought back over your career, and you've thought through the ins and outs, and you have things that clearly you've thought about before I've asked you them in this interview. Is this something that happened recently? Was it already going on over the years? You were it was percolating and you were changing as a person? How has this transformation come about?
I would say, as time goes on, there's only so many chances life can give you before you learn your freaking lesson. And for me, how many chances have I had? I've had the OpTic chance, the liquid chance, the complexity chance, the OpTic chance again, the EG chance. Like, I'm losing fingers at this point to count. And so now the reason I'm in such a reflective and, open mindset, which is because I feel like I'm running out of chances. And also, I'm just looking back at my career because I'm approaching the end of it. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, enough's enough, probably. Like, you're coming up on your last chance or your second last chance, and you really need to really take this opportunity. And so I feel like I've done that with Wildcard. I feel like I said, I'm finally in my elements. I'm the leader that I want to be. I'm getting the results that I want, up until lately, of course. But now is really the time for the organization to decide if they want to stand by me and let me do my thing, or if they want to, go into a different direction. But I feel like I've proven my capabilities as a leader, and I hope that, I still have the chance to compete, because I don't feel like I'm done as a player. I feel like I still have a little bit left in the tank, and I'm grinding every day that I can to make sure that I can still compete. But, I don't know what's next. It's, the major is still going on, so there's still a lot of things that can happen. But I'm just really excited for what's next. But definitely, to answer your question, the reason I'm in this open and reflective mood is just because I'm running out of chances, and I need to really finally just step up and step up to the plate.
In this renaissance in your career, do you have like a set kind of a goal or a target you're going for? Is there something that you need to do still in CS?
I mean, win a major is a very ambitious kind of thing, but I just want to reestablish myself as a top 10 player on a team. Not a player, but like, I want to establish myself on a team that can prove that they can compete with the top 10. I want to compete against like Mouse Sports and Liquid and even go like play more competitive against Vitality, because every time I play them now, I'm just getting blown out, and it's very very difficult. But just to be able to show that I know how to develop a team, I can find the right talent, I can I can still hang and compete at the highest level. And once I'm feeling like I can leave the team that I'm on in a good state, and I'm happy that if I leave, that they'll be able to be okay on their own. I'll step into like more of a coaching role. That's something that I really want to do moving forward. But for now, I just want to really try to get my way back up to the top. And then, once I'm happy with that and I feel like it's consistent, then I'll be happy to step aside and take on the next step in my career.
The debate most people have with in-game leaders from CSGO, and then count CS2 for karrigan, obviously, is karrigan versus Glaive, because it's two different styles. They did it totally different ways, but both clearly GOATed players who were just unbelievable. So you played against both of them quite a lot, actually. Only going on your experience, I'm not asking who the GOAT is, that's a separate conversation, but when you played against them, what are the differences in those IGLs, do you think?
I think with karrigan, you had more of that like X factor unpredictability. Like he would just whip out this new strat that he created, and the timings on that strat were perfect. And you always just felt like against phase, like their experience would almost suffocate you during especially a mid round. Like when you're playing the 3v3, someone like Rain or karrigan, like they would make the right decision, and it was very hard to outplay them in that regard because of their experience. And then playing against Glaive, it was like kind of like that, but more loose. So like instead of a whole new tactic like karrigan would create, like on Nuke, he created this like really awesome A split or whatever. Glaive would create these like really cool micro plays, like on Overpass, creating these boosts while you triple nade something, or triple nading bomb train. And like I've picked up a lot of like useful tips from both of them along the way. But yeah, I think that's the main difference for me, is karrigan's more of like overall big picture kind of new strategies and unpredictability, whereas Glaive is like these really cool micro plays and really cool defaults that you can really easily work off of.
Right. I ask the questions. Your job's just to answer them. So technically, as long as I'm not too impolite with how I ask it, you're a big boy, you can answer it, right? In the same way as if you do the karrigan versus Glaive thing, you have to sort of do like I did there, which is the reason why the whole GOAT debate's kind of a waste of time, is people do care about trophies and majors. So if you care about majors, you're going to have to say it's Glaive over karrigan. It's just the numbers 4 beats 1. I mean, it wasn't even fucking, just 4 beats 1. So instead, if you do that debate, what you're really asking is like, if you just look at them as an IGL only, which style do you prefer, whatever. So similarly, if I ask someone in NA, immediately their brain's going to go, it should be Nitro as the best IGL ever, because they've got all the successful Liquid. But again, you have your own success. You did it in a different way, right? Obvious setup question here. Only to you. You can be as egotistical or not as you want. Do you think you were the best CSGO NA IGL? Were you better than Nitro, do you think?
No, I can't say that. I think the results speak for themselves for Nitro. His trophy cabinet's a lot more fuller than mine, but I can be happy with, he had longevity in Liquid and he had stability, something that I never had in my career. And I was able to, time and time again, go to these different places and these different teams with rookies, with all sorts of players, and still make something happen. And so I can be proud of that. But at the end of the day, I think, like you said, trophies and results matter, and I think Nitro has that on me. But again, I'm still very proud of what I've been able to achieve with the places that I've been and the teams that I've had.
Right, I've got a fun quick fire round because you played with so many people. All I do is I'll ask you, who is the such and such type of player? Just give me a name and just give me a reason. So who is the most skilled player Stanislaw's played with?
Breeze, just because the quote stays true with Breeze, and that is talent beats hard work.
Very NA quote as well. I love it. Okay. What about, who was the smartest player you played with?
Smartest player that I played with was Ethan. Like, he was my secondary caller, he was my lurker, and playing with Ethan, you just understood the full picture on the map, no matter what map you were playing, because he was so smart and intelligent in the way that he read the game.
Who is the most clutch teammate you've had?
Ooh, the most clutch teammate I had, I want to say it was Cirque. When Cirque was in like a 1v2, the way he isolated those fights was incredible, and it was always with an op. It was really aggressive. He stayed true to his style, but I was always confident that Cirque would win a clutch.
Who is the funniest teammate you've had?
Funniest teammate I've had was probably Tarek. We were just always laughing with him, always having a good time. He would always make jokes, keep the mood light. He was notorious for like doing bottle flips wherever he was, and just to pass the time, like flipping a half full water bottle, like trying to get it, like that would keep us occupied for hours. It was good.
Okay, he's not beating the peanut butter allegations on that one, but it's all good. We mean it lovingly, obviously. Yes. Right. What about who was the best teammate in the sense of like as a teammate, like what they bring to the team? Who would stand out in that sense?
Best teammate, I would have to say Ethan or Tarek. They're tied for me. Both very humble, both always open to criticism, both understood the need for a team to be open and honest with each other, and also just the work that they put in. The work ethic is huge for me because a team feeds off of each other and their energy, and they both always worked really hard. And they were like prime examples for how you should behave in a team.
All right, the last one is, who do you think was the most underrated teammate you've had? My logic usually just goes, who don't you think got the credit, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I think most underrated teammate that I've had, I'll say Mixwell, to be honest, back on OpTic. When you think of the old OpTic, you would think of Naf and Rush more so than Mixwell, but Mixwell was that X factor that we had. He came in from a different country, and he was away from home, and he picked up the op for us, and he really would just pop off, and he was an incredible player.
At the end of this interview, it was a long one, but it's a good one. We got through a lot. It really was the truth, hopefully. What do you have to say at the end of the interview? Do you want to thank anyone? You want to shout anyone out?
I mean, just thank you to you for taking the time to allow me to reminisce about my career. I really appreciate that. I know we've butted heads sometimes in the past, but you've always stayed true to your jokes and yourself. The fans the ones that care have always stood by me, and I really appreciate that. And then the haters, thank you so much for making my skin bulletproof, because now I don't care what anyone says. It just doesn't bother me anymore. The haters are always going to hate. They're going to stay on their salty mind. So thank you to the fans, as always. Every single organization that I've played for, I'm sure I've burned a lot of bridges with those organizations, but still, you took a shot on me, and we had some sort of accomplishment back in the day. And I really appreciate that. And then to all of my ex-teammates, like from the OpTic days, from the NRG days, from the Liquid days, like I really appreciated every single time and moment that we had. Every single match it was just a pleasure to be able to have the opportunity to travel the world, do what you love, and play with all of these different personalities. So everyone that's given us the life that we've been able to live, including the analysts, all of the player managers, like just it's a big thank you to everyone. It sounds really like corny and soppy, I'm sorry, but I just really appreciate our whole community for just really providing us with a lifestyle and memories that we'll never forget.
You know, I'm always rep my set, and the people who've got my back are the following people who support my videos: Matt Pugnaccio Racula, Jason, Jensen Go, Tosh, Toucan, and you know, the all-time ride or die, Jerky's Minion, isn't it? Special thanks to him. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Want to find out who the upcoming interview subjects are? Do you want to take part in one of those long discussions with me where you set the topics? Maybe you want to ask me a question for my video AMA? Well, all of those perks and more are available where? At the Patreon link in the description box below. So put your money where your mouth is and join the Screwminati today. You dig?